In this episode of Love Leadership, we're going to be talking about the recipe for rebuilding with legendary coach Dan McCarney. Welcome back to episode 12 of the Love Leadership podcast. We exist to build up leaders who love to lead and lead to love. We're your hosts. I'm Mike O'Connell. This is Todd Doxzon, and we have a special guest with us today. My goodness, this man has impacted us in a deep way. Coached almost 40 years of college football, and our connection to him is at Iowa State University. We're so excited to have you today, Coach Dan McCarney. Thanks for being our guest today.
Thanks, Mike. Docs, great to be with you guys. And wow, time's flying now. Time is flying. And I won't tell you how old I am right now, but I back in the day, we didn't have any podcasts. We didn't have any virtual things. We didn't have any Zoom meetings. That's all it was, just person to person, man to man, person, and but great to be with you guys and looking forward to spending some time here and exchanging some thoughts and ideas with you, and hopefully planting some things in some people's hearts and some minds that might be good for them as time goes on.
So good, Coach.
And we're trusting that's going to happen. I personally, Coach, again, just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time when, the big idea behind these sessions, these podcasts, were to get amazing leaders who we can just get them to share some of their stories, what they've learned through their life experience by the grace of God. And when Mike and I were talking about it, we were like, you were one of the first ones that come to mind. And particularly, this is the August episode. Here we are. I mean, how many people are jonesing to get back to college football, to the NFL? All of us that have loved the game. And it's been so good to so many of us, building us in our character, being okay with being uncomfortable. Yeah. And your success throughout the years, Coach, is it's mind-boggling. And particularly this area of rebuilding. So I want to eventually get to that. But at first, before we even get to you on some of this, I just want to set it up because, I spoke to you off before we even got on this, and I said we could be on this call for 5 hours and barely scratch the surface on leadership and what you've learned through your life. But I really feel compelled, I think, in this season to really zone in on this idea of rebuilding. The culture we're in as a society, as a world, right? From the coronavirus, from racial reconciliation. You're talking about marriages on the fritz. You're talking about personal lives. I have two people I'm really close to right now that have been overcome with addiction, and they're just coming out of it right now. So talking about this whole idea of restoration and rebuilding, I think is, it's on my heart to really help a lot of people. And so I'm going to share my story just real quick, and then I'm going to turn it to you because many that are tuning into this podcast remember the story. I'm just going to share it for those of you that haven't heard it. And it is my sophomore year at Iowa State, 1994. We go 0-10-1. Yes, that is correct. 0 wins, 10 losses, and 1 tie. And we thought we won a bowl game when we had the tie against Okie State on the road, and it was and I'm the quarterback. So Speaking of leadership, I'm supposed to be the leader of the team, and I'm leading people and losing game after game. Our coach, gets let go at the end of that because of my poor performance and several other people's. But there was something about the culture, and it was just, I think it was getting into everybody. It was seeping into everybody. And then, by God's grace, Dan McCarney shows up, and I'll never forget the first day you had our team meeting. To this day, I remember where I was sitting. I remember what the meeting room looked like. I remember you coming in, like you looked 6'8" and like 200 to me, like in your coaching jacket, Mizuno jacket. Probably had just been done some lap pull downs or something, and you rolled in, and I'm just like, oh my, this is a different culture. And the charisma and the energy and the power that was seeping through, I was just like, okay, strap your seatbelt on, it's on. And then, so I knew right away that the environment shifted the minute you walked in that door, and the confidence that you had, and it changed everything. Well then, so that was like when you were coming in, and then you have Getty making all of us puke during winter conditioning. And then we eventually get to my junior year and we're in training camp. Day one of training camp, it's 95 degrees, 98% humidity. We're running gassers after the practice, and I start cramping up. Next thing you know, I got a full body cramp. I thought I was going to die. It was horrible. The next day I come in, and I'm physically ruined. Mentally, I'm still warped a little bit from, you're the leader of the team, but you're leading people to lose. My confidence was down. And I remember, telling Coach Jay Norvell, like, Coach, sorry, I'm gone. And I remember coming into your office, you're sitting there. I'll never forget that as well. Coach Norvell's right next to me. And I'm like, sorry, guys, I'm letting you down with my attitude. You don't want me as your leader. I'm out of here. And you were so gracious. You were so patient. And looking back now, I'm like, how did he deal with me? like pulling your hair out. But you were just steady, man. You were steady. And you go, tell you what, why don't you and Coach Norvell go out and grab a bite to eat? We went out and grabbed lunch, Coach. And he was so gracious as well. He goes back to practice too. I go home. I call my mom. My mom drives from Omaha, Nebraska to Ames, Iowa. By the time Coach Norvell comes to my house, my mom's at my house in Ames. And I'm packing stuff up, about to quit football, go to Nebraska, just go to school. Jay Norvell comes into the door, Coach, and this is the power of you selecting the right people around you. He walks in the door. He said, Todd, I've been thinking about all practice too. Would you rather let your teammates down by your attitude or by walking out on them? It's the one phrase that snapped. And by God's grace, you guys, in your patience, in your grace, in your leadership, allowed me to be a part of the beginning of the rebuilding process at Iowa State, where we went from 0-10-1 till, we set the foundation. You mentioned it. Troy Davis runs for 2,000 yards back to back. We set the groundwork for the success of the program. And I don't know how you did it, man. And I think that's kind of the idea. It's like, there's so many things that it's impossible. It's dead. It's done. There's no way we can do it. We don't have the personnel. We don't have the resource. We didn't have the facilities back then. And yet, what was once dead was resurrected under your leadership, Coach. And so I want to give hope to the listeners with a real life story. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Coach, and say, what are some keys, man? I mean, if you can try to remember, get yourself back there, what were some of the things that you had to fight through? What were some of the keys to literally resurrecting a program, to restoring an entire program?
Yeah, well, there's so many things. And first of all, it's an honor to be with you guys. And one of the great things about being in that profession of coaching is seeing young men like you two that you get when you come to college. Sometimes guys are 6'6" and 300, but inside they're still little boys. Yeah. They're boys. They might have a man's body, but they're little boys. And the great thing about college is you get to try in coaching to try and impact and change attitudes, help them improve their bodies, improve their minds, and improve their spiritual part, improve their emotional part of their mind. It's one of the things I love so much about it. I had some chances to go to the NFL as an assistant, but I always loved about college because you get a chance to take young boys and still really help them transition into young men. Along the way, who we kidding? We all want to win football games.
That's right. Yeah.
But I got to go through that in my career as an assistant with Coach Fry when he came into Iowa City, and Bobby Stoops and Kirk Ferentz and Bill Snyder and Barry Alvarez and Mike Stoops and Mark Stoops and Brett Bielema, and all of us were all together following Hayden's message, scratch where it itches. What the heck is that? What are you talking about, scratch where it itches? But in his mind and in his plan and his vision, it was, we're going to step outside the box. We're going to do things that have never been done before here. I don't care about what's happened. 20 years of losing. A lot of people now, young kids nowadays, you guys know that. Iowa football losers? Yeah, for 20 years, for 2 decades. Pathetic football. But we built it together, and we did something special, and Hayden saw things in each of us that we didn't even see in ourselves. Man. Along the way, you take those things with you. And then I got a chance to go to University of Wisconsin with Barry Alvarez, first day on the job. Very first day on the job, Barry tells me we were together for 8 years at Iowa. He wanted me to come be his defensive coordinator, assistant head coach. Wisconsin was winning? No, they were pathetic. They hadn't been to a Rose Bowl since 1963. 62, and they hadn't been winning at all. And in that great, big, huge Camp Randall Stadium, they had 32,000 people that were averaging the year before we got there. And we went 1-10 our first year. But the first day on the job, Barry Alvarez says to me, Mac, here's what I want. I want to turn this into another Nebraska, which was his alma mater, played for Bob Devaney. I want to turn this into another Nebraska where we can bring success and respect and honor and winning back to this place and fill the stadiums. And I want my seniors to have winning seasons. I want my seniors to go to bowl games. I want my seniors to someday go to the Rose Bowl. And someday, Mac, I want to be the athletic director here at the University of Wisconsin. Now, that was the first day on the job in December 1989, right before it turned to 1990, because he had a vision, he had a plan, he surrounded himself with the right people, and we got it done. We're 1-10 our first year. 4 years later, nobody's laughing at us anymore because we were a collegiate joke. Nobody was laughing at us. 4 years later, we brought the first Rose Bowl championship in the history of Wisconsin football to Madison, Wisconsin.
Coach, you know
what? Then I get a phone call.
Hold on real quick because I want to interject. Think about this. So that was it 93 when you were still at Wisconsin? Did you have that big old dude? Was it William Shackelford, that big old D tackle? Is that who you were coaching at that time?
My man, Shackelford. He was my nose guard from Gary, Indiana, Docs.
So I was a true freshman at Iowa State. We're running option football. We go on the road to Wisconsin. We're walking out of the tunnel. They're throwing these marshmallows with pennies in them, and they're pelting off our helmets. Wild stadium, and then all of a sudden, William Shackelford is your read, your three technique that you're stinking reading on triple option. I wanted to go, I'm a true freshman. I'm 150 pounds. It was terrible. Yeah. So thanks for that, Coach.
It gave us hope. It was an offensive explosion that day. We won 7-6. I don't know if you remember that, Docs. We won 7-6. And I got a game ball. I still have it in my house. I got a game ball because I held the Cyclones to 6 points. But it was an incredible experience. And then I get a long story short, okay, then I get a phone call. Barry Alvarez brings me in. We were rolling. We got a Rose Bowl. We had another great season going. The next year, 1994, Barry calls me and said, listen, I got a call from Gene Smith. I go, about what? He said, he wants to talk to you about the head job at Iowa State. I said, you're not serious. He goes, oh, yeah. Well, here I grew up in Iowa City, 36 years in Iowa City, played there, was a captain at Iowa, coached there for 11 years. I was there 19 years at the University of Iowa. And now the team that we wanted to beat so bad and recruited against and coached against and prepared against all year round wants to interview me for the head job at Iowa State. But there was only, there's 10,000 coaches every year at our National Coaches Convention. There's only 127 at the time that got to be head coaches Division I. So I'm going, I have to. I'm going to do this. I got to go interview. So Gene Smith flew in. You think some big fancy hotel, some big ballroom, no, we went to Denny's. We went to Denny's. An interview for 4 hours at Denny's for 4 hours.
Let's go.
Then they flew me down the next week. I didn't know if I was number 1 or I was number 20 in their list. No idea. They all had their Vegas look on their faces where they're not going to show anything. I walked into Dr. Jiski's office. There's about 22 people around this huge table. And I told him at the time, listen, I'm going to tell it like it is. You may want to hear these things. You may not want to, but I'm going to tell you what's wrong with Iowa State. It's not the academics because your school is phenomenal. But I've been recruiting against Iowa State all these years in Iowa and Wisconsin. And what I saw all the time was a white flag always going up saying, we can't beat Iowa. We can't beat Wisconsin. Let's move on down the road. If you happen to bring me into this job and give me a chance to lead this program, there won't be any white flags. We're not going to win every battle, but I'll promise you we'll get into the living rooms in the state of Iowa and start making people take a look at Iowa State, wanting them to come take a look, make sure they understand there's a great choice in Ames, Iowa, and the days of laughing at Iowa State football are done. And we're not going to do it with a click of the fingers. It's going to take some time. Right. But anyway, end up getting the opportunity to lead it, got to be with you guys. Went on with a 12-year career, which is a really long career, obviously, in Division I athletics at one school. So blessed, so lucky. And we took a program that was winless into success and winning season and bowl games. And I think if I'm gone tomorrow and I walk my last few steps and God says it's your time, I will be so thankful I got the chance to go there and bring some honor and respect and pride back to Iowa State football. things didn't work out in the end. I ended up getting let go. I ended up at South Florida. We won 9, went to number 2 in the country, went to University of Florida with Urban Meyer. We went 30-2 my first 32 games, got to hold that crystal ball. Guys, it was so phenomenal to be a national champion. And then I got one more chance to go be a head coach at North Texas. And they were in the bottom 10 when we got there. They just had just 2 weeks ago, they just came out with a final vote. They'd been voting for weeks and weeks and weeks who was the best team in the history of North Texas football. Our 2013 team that won 9 games, and we played in the Cotton Bowl, in the bowl game down there, and beat UNLV, had a phenomenal experience. Took Georgia to the 4th quarter before they beat us down there between the hedges. It was voted the best team in school history. So all of these things, just so lucky and so proud and so fortunate to be part of it. But I'll just say just 2 or 3 or 4 things are that these things were synonymous with people that are down. Our country's down, like you said, Docs.
Yeah.
We're looking for something positive. We're looking for some belief. First of all, I learned this. Now, I experienced it. This isn't something from a clinic or some speech or some book. Attack every day with an enthusiasm uncommon to most people. It's amazing the impact you can have on people around you. And even if you don't feel it that day, fake it if you have to. You may get out of bed and you don't feel good as a coach. You get out of bed and you're sore as an athlete, as a football player, as a student athlete. Fake it, man. Put a smile on your face. Impact people that day with your attitude and your approach. It really does work, guys. I learned this. Be unique in your approach. Be unique. Don't do something just because other people have done it that way. Okay. Be a little bit special. Hayden Fry taught me that. Try and learn and improve every day, no matter how long you're at. You two are really, really professionals in what you do. But one of the main reasons, I'm sure, because you are so successful is you keep trying to learn every day. I was a sponge from the time I was the youngest assistant in college football when Hayden Fry hired me at 23 years old to the day that I finished coaching. I never stopped trying to learn. Open up your mind, open up your heart, open up your soul. Keep learning from people around you because it really does make a difference. As we know, guys, adversity is going to hit. Ooh, baby. Adversity is going to hit. Yes. And it's hit our country. It's hit everybody in America with the pandemic and all the things that are going on around you. And it can do one of 2 things. I learned this one, baby. It can either rip you apart and shred you, or it can unite you, depend on how you handle it. I always chose to try and pull people around me to unite them when adversity hits. And both you guys know, because you played at the highest level of college football, every game that you play in, there's going to be some adversity.
That's right.
How about this one? We all learned this one in football. Try to be perfect. Let's play a perfect game. Let's play a perfect game. Through junior high, through high school, through college, through 45 years of Division I football, part of a winless season, part of a national championship, part of 21 bowl games, 4 dramatic turnarounds in the history of college football. Iowa, Wisconsin, Iowa State, North Texas. I've never been part of a perfect game. You strive to get there. You work to get there. But we won a national championship beating Bobby Stoops' Oklahoma team that was averaging 57 points a game, and we held them to 14, and we sure didn't play perfect. In fact, the second possession, they took the ball and went 80 yards right down the field. We got 50 million people watching our game down in the Orange Bowl, and you would have thought they were going to score 57 on our defense that night. But we didn't flinch. We gathered together. We believed in one another. We trusted the foundation. We trusted each other. We got good communication going between coaches and players, players and players, coaches and coaches, made some adjustments, won a national championship. But it's amazing because adversity is everywhere, and it's going to hit you some days worse than others. But I learned that a long time ago. You sure don't have to be perfect to succeed. How about this one? We've all learned this one. It's easy to be average in life. It's easy to be average. It's easy to be below average. It's hard to be elite. But I learned this much, and I'm sure you guys have experienced the same thing because you've been around them and you've been elite in your own lives. There's another gear that the elite people have. They reach down and they find another gear. If it's a politician, if it's a coach, if it's a banker, if it's a realtor, if it's a doctor, if it's a lawyer, if it's a mother, if it's a teacher, whatever walk of life it is, the elite ones just reach down and they find more. Bad day, tough experience, bad morale, people around you disgruntled, not feeling good, things in the country aren't going good. The elite ones reach down, they find another gear. And I found this out, and I know, Docs, you know this. When you look around now, and I took that job, the first day I took the job, I got calls coming in from all around trying to join my staff. Not because Iowa State had been winning, but they just felt like, you know what, I think maybe someday they might win at Iowa State. And I'm back in my home state. And Melanie Shane, our secretary, which I'm sure you probably remember, great young lady, just phenomenal. And there's enthusiasm everywhere, even though the program was really bad. I got there the first day. I went to Hy-Vee, stopped and got 2 big dozen donuts in this great big box. I'm going to impress everybody in that old building that we were in, all our offices. I set it down, Docs. I'm getting calls. Melanie's outside my office. Boom, 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 boom. I got 100 things going at once. It's my first chance to be a Division I head coach. Melanie goes down the hallway. I grab another phone call. I walk out to meet somebody right out. There were so many people coming in to say hello and congratulations. And I walk outside my office, and there's that box sitting there. There's a mouse sitting on top of the donuts, just chewing away at some damn donuts there on the on the donuts. And I'm thinking to myself, what did I get myself into? What did I get myself into? But you have to be the ray of hope. It's amazing, as you guys know, the power of hope, the power of a positive attitude, the power of, despite what anybody says, that you can't get it done. And a lot of people said I was going to commit professional suicide. You won't make it. You'll be back as an assistant again because you can't win at Iowa State. When we finally turned that thing around and we started winning and we started having success, it all went back to you guys, Docs, believing when we first got there that if we follow the plan, trust the foundation, don't flinch with adversity, believe in one another, know that someday something real special can happen, then each new season that passes will build on this. And maybe someday we can really hold our heads high and say, you know what? We did something really special at Iowa State. Because when I learned this in 45 years in Division I football, each new season you get to define how you want to be remembered.
That's true.
And the losing teams and the teams that come up short, they're going to be remembered by some family members and some fans and some people. But the ones that finally turn it around and you win and you do something special, you really get to be remembered forever. So those are just a few of the things that I remember and you reflect back to, and I've tried to carry it on with my personal life along with my professional life as a football coach.
Thanks for sharing, Coach. It's funny. There's one word, and I told Mike this, that every time I think of Coach Mack, I think of charisma. And here you are, I think you have a birthday coming up here in a couple of weeks. Well, actually, when we post this, you'll already turn, I won't say, but I look at, I some of the pictures I have of you, just so you know, I remember going into the weight room and you're just getting after it. I mean, you're just killing it. But when I'm around you, there's a gift. I feel like God's given you such an amazing gift of charisma that when you're around that energy, but it's not just the gift, Coach. I think you've been given the gift, but you have to participate with the gift, right? So it's a daily choice. I love that you said it's a daily choice. It's not just, you know what, well, I'm not feeling it today, so I'm going to check out. It's like, no, I'm not feeling it today, but you know what, I'm still going to choose to say, you know what, I'm going to show up. Because, you think about how do you rebuild something? How do you come out of the doldrums? How do you make Iowa State and North Texas like winning football teams? It's impossible. But the gift you've been given, and then your ability to participate with that gift and make that choice every day, over time, that's when you see the rebuilding and the resurrection. I think too often, at least for me, people want the resurrection tomorrow. I mean, we want the rebuilding tomorrow. The fact of the matter was, we're pretty pretty average my first couple of years. But the fact is, we stayed in it, and you were able to lead us so well to say, you know what? All right, we're not feeling it right now, but this is what coach has given us the plan. We're going to submit to the plan. We're going to bring our best every single day. And even if we don't see it over time, as we sacrifice, we will see the fruit of it, right? I mean, and that's what you modeled.
No question, Docs. And, this I applied. I learned this years ago, but I applied this. If you really want to be successful, and I saw it with so many individual student athletes, players, with teams, you can really apply it to life. But one of the first things, and you guys know what this is, just eliminate distractions, because they're all over. If you want to really be successful and have a chance, you got to eliminate those distractions. And it might be for that hour or that 2 hours or that 3 hours in football. You really have to, as much as you can, especially as a head coach, when there's so many things going on the outside, you have to try and really prioritize for that day, and then eliminate distractions. Create energy, okay? You guys aren't successful in life and in your personal lives and professional lives if you don't have a lot of energy. If you don't have a lot of energy in football, you got no shot. And I never like being around deadheads, and that doesn't mean everybody's got to be a cheerleader all the time. But I don't like coaching. I never like being around deadheads, guys that just don't have much energy and they don't have much excitement. They don't have the sports that we love and the game that we cherish, and the sport that you were so successful at, and I got a chance to be a part of as a player and a coach. It really brings out that energy in you. It's just the greatest team sport that God ever created. It's unbelievable. Fear nothing, and that's easier said than done. Fear nothing, because we all are afraid of some things in life sometimes.
Right.
And I remember going over to Lincoln, Nebraska before we start beating them at Iowa State, and Tom Osborne, one of the great coaches in the history of our profession, had national championship caliber teams. He finally won a national championship. One of my longest days ever in the history of my career was over there in Lincoln, Nebraska. That team went on in '97 and won a national championship, and I think they could have scored 100 if they wanted to. They got 70 on us, I think. But you fear nothing. You build that from within, and then you attack everything with this passion and this zest and this enthusiasm and this energy that you can be successful. And eventually that will pay off. And I saw that work at all levels, and I saw it work with so many human beings and so many people. But it's real common, as you guys know, it's real common to see unsuccessful people with a lot of talent. Drives you nuts as a coach. You have this talent, you have this God-given ability, you have this God-given talent, but you don't have the persistence or the consistency to be really good. Yeah. You don't have those things. God gave you this amazing gift, but you don't have those other things. And so that's why you see so many unsuccessful people, and you see that in all walks of life. And now you will step outside the football field, get outside the white lines, and you see people, as you guys do, you see people with this amazing talent, or this incredible IQ, or they really have this a God-given ability to really be successful, whatever they do, but they don't really persist, and there's no consistency. And that's why they just don't really succeed at the highest level as good as they can. But those are things that I've experienced and seen those. And there's just this resolve about taking a program that's really down, and you bring it back up, and you bring hope, and you bring life, and you bring excitement back. You have to strengthen that resolve, and you have to be the ray of hope as a leader, no matter what happens on the outside or what people are saying or the negativity or all the shots. And you got to be the ray of hope as a leader. We'll get this thing done. And in all honesty, Docs, that was one of the things that so many people kept saying, don't do it before I took the job. While I took the job, you can't get it done. And as we finally turned the corner and started winning, and start beating Iowa, and start going to bowl games, and start challenging and beating Texas A&M, and beating Nebraska, and beating Texas Tech, and having some great opportunities for, how about this one? We get a phone call in 2002. There's going to be one game played before the whole college football season starts, and it's going to be Florida State and Iowa State. Not Florida State and Ohio State. Jeez. Florida State and Iowa State are going to play in the Eddie Robinson Classic, and the whole country and the whole world is going to be watching as we kicked off college football down in Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Kansas. Can you imagine when I took that job, Doxzon, we all got together and I said, here's the plan and here's what we got to do, and it's going to take some time. But we were selected. They brought us down there. And by the way, Seneca still did score on that last play of regular season, of the regular game. We didn't have replays then. But I was so proud of that team and those kids because they went toe-to-toe and nose-to-nose with one of the great teams in college football. And it was such an honor to know that we had made that big step and we made a move, and people around the country started respecting us. And they did write a check for $1 million to our athletic department at Iowa State. That wasn't too bad either, to help all the sports at Iowa State. But those are the things that you look for and you see and you believe. And it's just so cool to see that team and those programs and the players, starting with you guys, it was based on discipline and stamina and toughness and resolve that someday we're going to do something special here at Iowa State, and we were able to do that.
So cool, Coach.
Yeah.
I was going to say, there's something that you keep alluding to, Coach. You talked about how when you stepped into the room with those 22 individuals in like a final interview setting at Iowa State, you were casting so much vision for the program of what you saw Iowa State looking like. You went back and you talked about being with Barry Alvarez and what he said he saw at Wisconsin on his first day on the job. You talked about Hayden Fry and the vision that he had, with thinking outside the box. How much has vision contributed to your success as a leader? Because I think, we're talking about potential and we're talking about talent, but I think it takes time to see a vision through, right? And so how much did vision contribute to your overall success as a leader? And then what would you say to somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of vision and just keeps, falling below their potential?
Yeah, great question, Mike. And the vision part of it is, if you've been there and you've experienced it and you've seen it, it sure helps rather than hearing about it, just listening to it, maybe watching it. But if you've been there and you've been at least a small part of it, which I was at Iowa and Wisconsin before I took the Iowa State job, it gives you more hope and more belief, more tangible evidence. We'll get this thing done. Now, follow my lead, and I'm going to surround myself with really, really good people. Like Doc's talked about the story with Jay Norvell. Jay Norvell and I were together on that whole thing, Docs. We weren't letting you go. I saw talent. I saw competitive desire. I saw pride. I saw loyalty. You weren't going anywhere now. And you may have thought you were going somewhere. We weren't letting you go anywhere. So you surround yourself with winners as a coach, and you make sure all of them, anybody that touches the program, Mike, anybody that touches the program has to believe in your plan. Otherwise, don't let the door hit you on the way out of here. You have to buy into this thing. Trainers, doctors, managers, coaches, players, walk-on, scholarship. Get the media to buy in. Margie and I, my wife and I, did a thing every spring. We started at Iowa State and did it 12 years. We had a party on Thursday night at our home before the spring game. And what I invited in, a lot of it was I brought the media to our home. And it wasn't I was going to turn them into cheerleaders for the Cyclones. That wasn't going to happen. But just tell it like it is. And if it's good, write that it's good. If it's bad, write that it's bad. But build a bond, build a trust. And we were able to do that. We brought in some of our top donors, people that did special things for the program, all the media that covered the Cyclones, brought them all in. But it was all part of the plan, having a vision, Mike. This is what we want to do. I want kids in the state of Iowa, starting here and then branch out to the Midwest, to believe they can come to Iowa State, not only get a great education, which has been there for decades and decades and decades, but you can play competitive, winning, successful football too. It's a great choice, but it hasn't been for a long time because 100 years had passed, they'd never won a bowl game. Johnny Majors, God bless him, just passed. Earl Bruce passed away. Hall of Fame coaches, incredible coaches. 4 bowl games in 100 years, 0 victories in bowl games. That's why that senior class to me in 2000 will always mean so much to me, because we finally did it. And Doug Dinsmore, my defensive back that came in undersized, under-recruited, underdeveloped, ended up having a great career. He came into my senior meeting at the end of two-a-days, and I said, I want some input from you seniors. What do you want to do this year? And I don't need phoniness. I don't want stories. I don't want something you heard from someplace else. What do you guys want to do this year? Now, little Denzi got up in front of the team and said, I want to go somewhere hot in December. It's cold as hell in Ames, Iowa in December. I want to go somewhere hot. I want to be in a bowl game, and I want people to respect who we are and what we are. So I got a big thermometer made, and I put our goals up there, and at the top of it, it just said, go somewhere hot in December. When we got that invitation to go to Phoenix, Arizona, go play the University of Pittsburgh, win the first bowl game in 100 years at Iowa State, it meant so much. But, Mike, you had to have a vision. You had to have a plan, and then you had to get everybody to buy into it and believe in it and then work at it each day. And one of the toughest things, guys, and I'll shut up, one of the toughest things is there's a lot of days you just don't see the improvement. You don't see the tangible success. But you have to believe in your heart and your soul and your mind. We are making progress. It might just be a tiny little, just a little step amidst all the adversity and the negativity and all that stuff. There's some steps going in the right direction. And you bow your neck and you hold your head high and you make sure that everybody knows that you're going to get there. Just a matter of when. But it takes guys, docs like you were at the beginning. At the beginning, when it's really hard, you don't know who to trust and who to believe, and you've been through some hard times, and you've been scarred through all the negativity and the losses and all that. Just because somebody comes in and has a message, well, it's hard sometimes to believe in that. But if you get everybody to put their heart and soul into it, then you can get things done and you can be successful. And I get opportunities to go speak at a lot of places of former players where it's just their businesses now. Yeah. But as you guys know firsthand, that's why you two are so successful in your giving, in your life, and what God has asked you, has directed you guys to do with your lives. So much of the lessons we learn in athletics and in football, you can carry over to the rest of life. Are you kidding me? How many of those lessons do we get to apply to our other professional, personal lives that we learn through the hard times in football? And that's why I was so blessed to be able to do that.
It's so crazy, Coach. We talk about that a lot, where to the point where some of our staff are like, all right, do you guys have anything else? Like, because we do talk about the power of the game and what it's done by God's grace to really train us in some of those little disciplines that lead to big victories and just the consistency. And you hit on a couple of those. And I remember Denise and I went down, I think it was the Insight.com Bowl in Phoenix, Arizona, where Chris Anthony, I think, had a couple of touchdown catches and ended up playing with him in the Arena League. And it was just, and I could tell you, Coach, from my heart, it was such a proud moment for us that we're allowed to be a part of the building that foundation with you, to see that success. And it was just nothing cooler to see that. So thanks for staying in the game with that. Last two questions, unless you have anything else, Coach, I wanted to end with these two questions. One, because winning's great, and there's no question. None of us like to lose. But there's something, now as a Christian, particularly as a pastor leading a church, there's something bigger for me in the equation of training men. And you mentioned this at the beginning. When you're a college coach, you're helping grow young boys to become men. Can you just speak? So this is question number one. Speak a little bit more into why you did what you did for that many years. You're a competitor. You're got this gifted charisma. You're a phenomenal leader. But to me, I have a sneaky suspicion, Coach, that really when the rubber meets the road, the deep connection and how do I say it, influence that you've made in guys' lives, just like Mike and I, to me, there's something about that. And I would just say as a leader, when I see Mike or Cap or some of these other guys that I've having the privilege to lead, they step up to the mic and they deliver a Bible study, or I see them do a wedding, or I see them just leading their families. Like, there's something in me that erupts as a leader that I'm like, it's all worth it. It's all worth it to see these guys step up. So that's question number one. And let's just go with that. And then I have one final question.
Yeah, Docs, and it's just so cool for me in life. Now I've had some time to look back on it and think about it. When you're just so caught up in the 16-hour days and 7 days a week and relentlessness of people don't really understand it. It's funny. I've heard that. I've been asked if I've heard it once. I've heard it 500 times in my career. Which NFL team's your favorite team, Mac? Well, who do you like to really watch on Sundays? It's like, no, Sundays are the longest day of the week. We get there at 7 o'clock in the morning. You're trying to evaluate and put that one behind you. Work till late at night. You're away from your families. I always gave my staff time to go to church, obviously on Sundays. But other than that, you're just there all day. It's just all day and all night. And you got to really people got to understand the commitment that has to be made. It's year round. It's so tough. It's just there's so much that's there that has to be done. There's so much of a workload, but it's just so worth it when you see growth and maturity and improvement. And I got to walk in the shoes of a coach. They called you coach, wore a whistle around your neck, but I had the opportunity to change lives, improve lives, enhance lives. You go on the road recruiting. I know you guys understand this. I might be in 8 or 9 or 10 schools and homes in one day as a head coach. I might be in a trailer park for a half an hour and a half. Then I go to a $1.5 million home. And then I go back to the projects. And then I go back into a $600,000 home. And then I go where there's a beautiful family with parents, and mom and dad are both there, and brothers and sisters, and the support system is incredible. And then you go to a home and there's no dad or there's no mother, and an aunt or grandmother maybe stepped up in that family and gave so much love and support to that young man to get him to this opportunity that he has to go be a Division I football player. All these varied backgrounds. There was a study done in recent years that I heard about. Thousands of people were asked the question that were in their last days of their lives. What's your number one regret if you'd had to do it all over again? And the answer that was more prevalent than any of the other one was, I wish I would have lived a life that's really what I wanted to do, true to myself, not what anybody else wanted me to try and do. I wish I would have lived my life and gone for whatever I wanted and not worried about on the outside or what somebody else said you can do or you can't do. Bottom line is no ceilings, don't worry about expectations. Don't worry about what people say you can do or you can't do. Go for the gusto. Go for it, man. Let it all hang out. If you have a dream, if you have something out there that you think you can have that's achievable, then go get it, baby. And don't listen to all the noise and all the people on the outside. So, Doc, to me, that was one of the great gifts that I was given, getting my opportunity. My first year as an assistant in Iowa, I had $10,000. Then I got $12,000 the next year. Then Hayden Fry came in 1979, and he gave me the tight ends for $18,000. Then the defensive line coach left. 4 months later, and he gave me the whole defensive line, and I was with Hayden for 11 years and that whole crew at Iowa. We got into this because we wanted to give back to this great game of football that was so good to us, that impacted our lives, that changed our lives, that helped mold us as young men, not because of these huge salaries. And I tell young coaches that nowadays, I worry about that because you guys know about it. You hear it and you see it, the salaries, the money that's out there. It's incredible. I just hope the motivation and the drive for young coaches that want to get into it is that you want to help young men and help them grow as young men like the coaches did with us and help impact our lives, not because of this huge paycheck. That's not the motivation. Give back to the game. And I think if you have more and more guys that are doing that, then it's going to be this great game of football can continue for a long time. I don't know if that answered your question, Doc.
It does, Coach. I appreciate you sharing that. It's funny because Mike and I also coach. We're leading this church, but we also coach. And one of the kids I've been working with alongside Speed Coach. Me and him have been working with Blaze, my son, but also a couple other kids. And one of them is going to be a junior here in Omaha, and he's probably a 5-star kid. And it really struck a chord in my heart. I'm tearing up a little bit because you talked about how you'd be in different homes, and here's a kid who doesn't have the greatest, home support life, but to be working with him on the field and teaching him the intricacies of the game is great. But to pour vision for his life and to see a young man mature, to me, there's just nothing like it. And whether it's leading a church, whether it's leading a team, leading your family, and it's so apparent, Coach, that passion is genuine, and I've always felt that, and I just really appreciate your leadership in my life. And I mean, I'll go to my grave thanking God for you and Coach Norvell. I was telling Mike the last couple of days I've been giddy to get you on this call, because I'm like, I can't believe Coach Mack is literally going to be on our podcast. Like you made my entire week, and you've had so much impact in my personal life that I'm forever indebted to your sacrifice, your hard work, your discipline. You didn't give up. You showed up. You didn't give up on me, and I just can't thank you enough. So one last thing, and this is total random. I just thought of this is, what's your thought on college football coming up this year? What's your thought? Are we going to play? Like, what are we going to do here, Coach? I'm tripping here.
I stay in touch. I'm going to share one more story, and then I'll answer your question there real quick. You guys are full of character. That's why you're real successful. And God's got you in charge, got you in leadership positions. Both of you are really, really successful. I can see why, and I can see why that church is thriving under the leadership of you guys. It starts with character, and it's not something that's handed to you. It's a daily process. You earn it through your actions. You earn it through your behavior. You build your character through everyday decisions, and you guys are two great examples of that. It's one of those things that's so important in college athletics, because a guy can be really, really fast, or really tall, or really athletic, or really strong, or really tough, but does he have the character? And if he's lacking just a little bit, can you bring out the best in him and build that character? I'll share this story with you because it's true, and I experienced it. As I mentioned, I got to go to University of Florida. When I took the job with Urban Meyer, they had just given up over 700 yards in the bowl game against Michigan. So he was in a really bad mood about the defense. And so I got a chance to go in there and try and help build it back and get the defense where he wanted it. Charlie Strong was our defensive coordinator. We went in and put this thing together defensively, and pieces came in place. And we had a lot of talent, obviously, but so did everybody else in the SEC.
Right.
But two examples of character, guys, impeccable character on one end, and on the other end, not so much character. And it was just, what an unbelievable example. Obviously, Tim Tebow was our quarterback, tremendous young man, always put God number one in his life, more than anything else. The most important thing was God in his life. But you talk about a competitive cat now, and hated losing. And every single day at practice, it was game day for the Gators every day. When we got there, Urban wanted practices to be tougher than game day. And they were more competitive. And Tebow was one of those guys that led that. But he had this impeccable character. At the heart of everything that he did was this character that was off the charts. Yet he would compete like crazy, never wanted to lose. I remember our first 5 o'clock workout, 5 a.m. workout. We got through with it, and we got at the end of all the stuff that was going on, and Urban called out the offensive and defensive line tug of war. Wide receivers, DBs, tug of war. Running backs, linebackers, tug of war. And then he calls out offensive and defensive line coaches. None of us knew that was coming. And we jumped on that rope. Defensive coaches kicked the offensive coach's butt. That was great. Do it again, because Urban's an offensive guy. Do it again. Give him this guys a chance. Defensive coaches won again. He doesn't like that now. Do it again. He's telling those offensive coaches, win one. Come on, let's go win one. We're beating them again. Guess who jumps on the rope on the offensive end, starts screaming at us. Never swore one time ever, but you defensive coaches are soft. He's screaming at us. Tim Tebow jumps on the rope, and he's pulling that rope and trying to win for the offense. Took it all the way to a national championship. Unbelievable character. Then we had another guy, unfortunately, named Aaron Hernandez, who was a tremendous football player. First-round talent, no question. Ends up going down on the draft a little bit because they had some positive drug tests. Every time he went back to the Northeast, went back to Connecticut, he hung with some bad cats. You are who your friends are. It usually has an effect on your character, who you're hanging with, who you spend time with. And it's not to blame anybody, but it was just an incredible example on the same team. Two phenomenal football players. Hernandez goes to the Patriots, as you guys know, signs a contract over $50 million, has a gorgeous girlfriend, beautiful daughter. He's got the best quarterback in the history of my lifetime throwing him passes. He's got the best coach in my lifetime in the history of coaching in Bill Belichick. And he had everything going for him. But there was a character flaw, no doubt about it. And he ended up giving into that, spending time with bad people. And he made his own mistakes, obviously. And to think we were with him, my children, my wife, Margaret, we were around him all that time in a family atmosphere around that football team. End up committing suicide after supposedly, which he was convicted of murdering people. And it all had to do with character. That was really a shame. It was just a heartbreak. But I wanted to share that because you guys are such great examples. The teachings and the lessons and the leadership that you provide starts with the character that you have, obviously. Unbelievable, right there in your heart, unbelievable character. But I know this much too, Dox and Michael. The relationships that we have, that we built through time, and it may not have been as much time as we wanted. Here's all these decades of past, and here we are on a meeting here and talking about the time that we spent together and the lessons we've learned. But the respect that we have, it never's gone. It never disappears. You never lose that respect. You never lose that love. The memories that we shared, they're there forever. And I'm just really glad and honored that I got to spend some time with you guys many, many years ago. And I'm really glad, really honored we got to spend some more time together today. I'm so proud of you guys. And it's no surprise. Great loyalty, great character, great work ethic, unbelievable spiritual connection, conviction that you have, tremendous leaders in your own right. And then all these years pass, and then you see the success that you're having in life. Can't tell you how proud I am of you two guys.
Thanks so much, Coach.
So awesome, man.
Wow. Well, let me. Do you mind if I pray for you, Coach, as we conclude? Man, this has been an amazing time. It really means the world. God, thanks for Coach Mack and Margie and the fam. And just it's truly an honor to have them on the show. And I pray you'd bless them back a millionfold for all the investment, not just in Mike and I, but the several young men, and not just men, but just all the people in general. What a gift of influence, charisma. Bless them down in Florida. I pray that we would have a college football season somehow, as long as everybody's safe. So many good things happen from it. And I pray for many more young men to grow up and to become men of character and influence. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Love it, Coach. Thanks,
Coach.
man.
Appreciate your time.
Love you. And if I ever come out of retirement, I want both you guys on my football team again.
Let's do it. All right, Coach. God bless you, man.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Go Clone. Take care.
See you, man. Love you.
Wow, what an episode, PT. That was just crazy. Wasn't it just such a joy and privilege to have Coach with us today?
I literally teared up 3-4 times, man. I had to control myself because there's something deep in your soul when you're impacted in such a powerful way through a man like Dan McCarney. We talked about it. He's one of a kind. He really is. And to see what he's accomplished in his life, man, go Wikipedia this guy, man.
Seriously.
I mean, it's just crazy to see. But when we talk about our 7C type people, every one of them, he's lived, and you see the fruit of it, man. Powerful.
100%. Yeah, and I think the thing that really struck me was just the guy's a man of passion. It's like, he's talking about, man, back in my day, we didn't have these, podcasts and Zoom calls and all this stuff, but I felt like I was in a meeting room with him again. Jeez. And he brought that same energy and passion. It's no wonder why he's had the success that he's had.
That's right.
All that vision and it's just it was such a joy to to just hear his stories. What would you say from this episode, from your perspective, what maybe struck you the most or stood out the most on one thing that he shared?
To me, it's charisma. He has a gift, and I think he mentioned this too. It's one thing to have a gift. It's a whole nother thing, though, to every single day bring your best. No matter how you feel, no matter what the situation, circumstances. He took over Iowa State. We were 0-10-1. You heard him say it multiple times. Everybody was saying that you're committing coaching suicide. So don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Even when he was there, you still can't do it. And yet, the charisma combined with that daily choice to show up and bring his best, you see over time they win a bowl game. He goes to North Texas. North Texas was bottom 10 in college football.
It's crazy.
And yet, you see the success of what's happened. And again, it's the charisma along with that consistency. And, we might have to do an 8th C, man, and add charisma.
We
have a
might.
picture
Jeez.
of Coach Mack right
Coach
there.
Mack, that's it.
Crazy.
Yeah, he there's no question that he's a man that shows up. He's a man of vision. He's a man that surrounded himself with the right people.
That's right.
And when you do those things, you can be successful as well. And that would just be kind of our challenge, our takeaway, I think, for all of us, is if there's anything that we learned in the recipe for rebuilding, it's that you and I have a choice every single day when we wake up on what attitude we're going to bring to the table. And Coach Dan McCarney showed up every single day, whether he felt it or not. And now we have that same opportunity in whatever we're called to do, whether it's leading our organizations or leading our families or leading ourselves personally. Every single day we got to wake up and make the choice that we're going to bring our best to the table like Coach. And hey, we want to thank you guys for joining us today. This was awesome.
It's been I know it's been long, but man, it's been meaty. So thanks for staying with us.
Yeah, and what we would say is if you've been blessed by today's episode, please share it with a friend. We'd also just encourage you, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us get exposure for the podcast. Again, we're doing this because we simply want to have conversations that will help leaders grow in their own life. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time.